next week we're either going to be talking about an end to the war in Ukraine, like really talking about it, or we'll be looking at World War III. One of the two.
Pulling the Thread podcast episode 10. I can't even hear me. What the fuck is going on here?
I bet everybody else
Is this
can.
even the same soundboard?
Same everything.
Did our soundboard get stolen again?
It didn't. You just haven't.
Just
you're
switched?
not accustomed to it.
Why?
Haven't been in here in a while.
How come when you pay more for a soundboard and the fucking thing gets smaller? I want more lights and buzzers and shit.
They don't want that.
Why
I
not?
want that. Can you? What's the thing you used to see the rappers in when they're rapping and they had all the fucking boards and shit?
Like a DJ, like a booth.
Yeah.
You want like a mixer.
Can you do? Yeah. Can I have that? They got to be giving them away nowadays, right?
I'm sure they're free now.
Everybody just does SoundCloud, so
Yeah, it's just on a MacBook.
I want the lights to be so bright on the soundboard that you have to use even brighter lights in the background to wash out the soundboard.
that's how my sewing area. It's 15 degrees warmer where I sew
Okay,
at.
so last week we were sewing. I had a 600-watt globe light above him at almost maximum power. So bright that my eyes were flickering, and Cody was even complaining. And then on the other side, I have two 60-watt with huge softboxes. And then he has two funny little octopus arms, and then the overheads are on too, of the entire garage. And he's going, it's not fucking enough light. And he's like smacking everything. And I'm like,
Can
You know what I need?
Can you
Don't
turn
they
it up
have
a little bit?
Don't they have glasses that have two
Oh,
like for
man, that'd be great. Yeah.
Tim Riley has those surgical glasses.
That's what you need.
That
Some
is
surgical.
what I need.
Or
the new camera glasses that
Only $800, and you can't
Or we
replace
just
the
get-
batteries.
we get him a pair of birth control glasses and just tape two Surefires to the side of it.
Or some mini mags.
Two Surefires to the side of it. That might be enough light, maybe.
So what's going on? What are you aware of in the world?
I mean, Europe is a soup sandwich.
Yeah, why?
The Democrat Party is filled with losers. That's about it.
Did you see the young man that they honored last night? He had had 13 brain surgeries. Young kid, when he was very young. They had Lincoln Riley's family up there, and then they had this young man up there, and I think he's 13 now. And he said, I was taking a bath, and I went to the slow place. He still has some. He speaks very well, but he's like, every time I've had a surgery, my personality has changed. And this kid's dream is to be a police officer. So he's like an honorary police officer with like 90 different agencies. And Trump made him an honorary Secret Service agent last night.
Nice. I hope they
And-
gave him a badge.
They did. And the dude that he was standing there with, Trump's now head of Secret Service, was the Secret Service agent that was on stage with him when he went down and took a knee down there. That's the dude that was covering Trump's body. And he was there with that kid. But not a single Democrat fucking applauded, gave any fucking appreciation, nothing for any of those people.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is the Democratic Party has nothing. They have nothing. They are, like, if you're a liberal Democrat that understands what America actually is, and you want to do good for the country, you really have to leave the Democratic Party because they don't have anything. They don't have anything.
Trump had said, we funded Ukraine for the last 6 years, and they all applauded. And he's like, I bet you'd like another 6 years, wouldn't you? And he goes, yeah, Pocahontas right there. She wants another 6 years.
Yeah, they don't. The reality is when you think about the Democrats, they're the part. They were supposed to be the party of peace, and they are the fucking war hawks.
Are they really, or is it just simply that they are fucking just doing anything that is against Trump?
No, well, no, because you have to understand that the Ukrainian war. Let's go back. Let's forget about Ukraine. The Democrats wholeheartedly were in Afghanistan, Iraq. The Democrats, again, under Obama, they destroyed the country of Libya that now you can go buy slaves in because we fucked that country up because they had no plan for it. They are the war hawks. They want war because war is the easiest way to create graft.
As do many of the Republicans as well.
Oh, I mean,
Or
yeah.
especially rhinos.
There's fucking Republicans in there that are very that are very war hawks too. And that's, I would say that's the problem with the president is when you talk about the deep state wants war because war is what, I could probably make an argument right now that the Democrats are right. The Democrats are right in wanting to continue the war in Ukraine.
You feel that? You believe that?
Well, I could make the argument because what most people don't understand is the reason why we have survived the last 8 years under Democratic control is because of the large influx of money that's been going into the defense department or into Raytheon and all those corporations, General Dynamics, to fight this war in Ukraine. The reality is what most people don't understand is...
You mean that's kept our economy alive?
It's kept our economy afloat, meaning inflation is actually at an all-time high. But because of the huge influx of money that, again, you could just say this is just laundered money, the billions of dollars that's gone to Ukraine and the less billions that have come back to the United States to purchase equipment is what's keeping the economy afloat.
Did you see the post that Kash Patel put up last night? Had 15 congressmen such on there and showing the money that came from Ukraine into their bank accounts back to them.
Oh yeah, it is a heavy laundering scheme, no doubt about it. Like the reality is, Ukraine has been and still is one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Before the war started, everyone knew how corrupt Ukraine was. Okay. Now, when you have a guy sitting there going, well, I don't know where $100 billion is. That's you do. It's corruption. Like it is corruption.
Did you see
pure and simple?
There's an Instagram page. She's got a YouTube channel too. She's called Really Graceful. Has a very easy, soft voice to listen to. She does all this conspiracy theory and history stuff. Her channel's amazing. I sent you a link, I think, last night. I don't know if you saw it. It was a 30-minute video on the history of Ukraine and Zelensky, and it's just fucking crazy, all the footage of him just being silly, like literally playing a homosexual.
He was a comedian before he was president.
Well,
he was a comedian before the
Do you know they had him in a movie?
United States conducted a coup.
They had him in a movie. He was the head actor in a movie playing the president of Ukraine 4 years before he was installed as the president of Ukraine.
Yeah. I mean, the reality of when you conduct a coup, a military operation, which is what we did in Ukraine, the Color Revolution was a coup that was supported by the CIA and funded by the United States of America. When you do that, you put in the person that you can manipulate. They're not going to be allowed to elect somebody that is not going to toe the party line. That is the reason why we conducted the coup, because the individual who was elected wasn't towing the fucking party line. It's no different than like when we think about Saddam Hussein, right?
So I remember Good Morning, Mr. Gaddafi, this is your wake-up call. Because you had said Libya earlier, right? And that was a whole debacle, and it's fucking wrecked right now more than it's ever been, like biblical time slave trade. But even I remember in the 4th or 5th grade watching Ronald Reagan. Good morning, Mr. Gaddafi. This is your wake-up call. And those fucking Tomcats or whatever we sent in there that bombed the shit out of himself, out of that. But that was, under Obama, under, Republican and Democrat.
Well, when we do, the interesting thing about that is after the end of World War II, there was a certain level of the dictator is the dictator that you should keep, right? We were never looking for regime changes anywhere in the world. All we would do is manipulate the regime. So meaning...
Well, Rothschilds would.
All we would do is manipulate them. Well, because you have to understand that... You have to understand from a perspective of the end of World War... When you look at World War II, the end of World War II, Japan, all of Europe is fucking trashed. It is trashed.
That's how Ukraine is right now.
It has to be rebuilt. And the only way you can rebuild it and it turn into some semblance of a decent world is through stabilization. You have to stabilize everything. And that's what the United States did. We put our Pacific Fleet, our Atlantic Fleet everywhere in the world. We put U.S. troops everywhere in the world, not for colonialism, for stabilization. What we did is we stabilized the world. Now, sometimes when you stabilize the world, you have to stabilize a dictator, meaning Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi, because those individuals are stabilizing that part of the world, right? If Saddam Hussein is in the Middle East and he is cracking the whip, I don't have to worry about maintaining stability in that country because he's doing it through force. Same thing with Libya. And that's what we did. We went around the world and stabilized it to the point where the Western world could rebuild and become the countries they are today. You know, France can rattle their sabers all they want. Britain can rattle all their sabers all they want. The only reason why they still exist as countries is because the United States was willing to do all that for everybody else by taking nothing in return. Now, the problem with that is we have grown to a point where the Europeans have viewed our ability to maintain stability around the world as something that we owe them. And we don't owe them shit. We don't owe them a fucking thing.
What do we owe Canada?
We don't owe Canada anything either.
Right.
Canada
we support them $200 billion a year.
Canada has lived under the umbrella of our protection the entire time. We don't owe Canada shit.
Let's go back to Ukraine. We'll talk about Canada in a minute. So back to Ukraine. Ukraine's completely disheveled. I mean, literally rubble. There's not even a fucking cinder block in some of those towns there. So we say, so Zelensky comes to the White House, gets dressed down. I think that was probably planned, if not even scripted, maybe. And he's supposed to sign this mineral deal, which he says he'll sign in Munich. Goes back to Munich and completely tries to circumvent the United States. France says they're putting troops in fucking Ukraine. Germany says they're putting troops in Ukraine. And he's not doing the mineral deal. I see Putin. Last night I saw this. Putin reached out to Trump and said, we'll sell you minerals. We'll sell you 100 times more minerals than Ukraine has. Let's do a deal. Where that went, or if it, you don't even know if this shit's real anymore at this point, but it did seem, I think it was Tatum that put it out, pretty, respectable channel. Could you imagine if we just circumvented Ukraine and said, fuck you, and we did a deal with Russia, and now all of a sudden we are friendly with Russia? what the, like I heard 2 days ago, Trump said, we're pulling out of NATO. We'll just leave NATO. We're not going to do your Article 5 shit because France goes over there and gets fucking whacked. Yeah. And now all of a sudden we're beholden to be in this war. He's like, we'll just leave NATO.
Let's look at this Zelensky fiasco. Okay.
He's got 2 more weeks.
What people don't understand is when Zelensky left to come to the United States, the only reason why he was coming to the United States was to sign the mineral deal. Rubio had already etched that in stone. That we're gonna give you fucking shit.
Yeah, they were announcing it publicly.
You're gonna give us now. Again, you can look at it any way you want. No European nation, all the NATO countries that are supporting Ukraine are supporting Ukraine with mineral deals. The British signed a fucking mineral deal before Trump was even president.
They were paying everybody back except the United States.
The United States was the only one taking it in the shorts because we had weak leadership. When Zelensky got here, you know why he was late meeting the president?
Because he had met with all the fucking...
He met with Democratic leadership, and the Democratic leadership told him not to accept the mineral deal. Do we
know who was present for that meeting?
There's
who
actually
said that? Why are they not fucking up on charges?
We could find out who it is. We could probably find out who it is because there's actually video of the meeting. The reason why they're not on charges is because what they did was not illegal. It wasn't illegal. It wasn't treason. Delegates.
Boy, you would think they'd be fucking dancing on thin ice right now.
They are
but very fucking careful.
The reality is they are dancing on
You
thin
see
ice.
them?
They have no base. The Democratic Party is fucked.
Yeah, you see AOC shit when fucking he said, "Hey, I'm going to have Bondi look into this," and Bondi fucking put charges. There's an investigation.
So
Whether that goes anywhere, I mean,
the Democrats are the ones that told him to be confrontational in the White House. He was confrontational in the White House. But
if they'd have just taken him into custody right there, this shit would all be over. Everybody in Ukraine would be pleased. Russia would be pleased.
You can't. You can't.
Because they won't come a second time if you do.
You can't.
But if you had fucking taken him into custody,
we're still. Again, understand, John. We're still operating. We're still operating under the auspice of civilized society. It's kind of like, I don't know if you remember when certain Democrats were calling for the assassination of Putin. That became a really big deal because nation states, theoretically, nation states aren't allowed to plot the assassination of a elected world leader.
Right, only your intelligence agencies are allowed to do that.
Yeah, and even they got in trouble for it when they were doing it.
With a cutout.
So, what ended up happening though is because Zelensky is not a real, because he's not a real player, he's an actor, right? When he puts the uniform on and he goes out, he's acting. When he's running around the world stage and asking everybody for money, he's acting. He's not a real leader. He doesn't understand the nuances of everything that's going on in the world. So when France, we're France, we're going to send troops, or Britain's like, we're going to send troops. He thinks in his head that that's enough, that that's what he needs. Now, what nobody understands, including Zelensky, is even the Brits with their, we're going to put troops and planes and we're going to do all this stuff. Fuck you, America. Down here in the fine print that Zelensky's not reading, and that the spectacle of what the leaderships in Europe are doing, in the fine print down here, it always says the same thing. As long as we have guarantees from America. As long as we have guarantees from America. The British have 100 total armed forces, 175,000 troops. Total. We have more in our fucking National Guard. Are they going to commit their entire military to a total losing perspective? Of course they're not. There is no fucking way. And when the British are talking about sending troops and sending planes, what they are actually talking about is what Trump has already said. We will guarantee a peace deal and we will use NATO troops to monitor that line to keep the peace. The British aren't offering Ukraine fucking anything that isn't already part of the deal. They're not. It's this fucking big European joke. The reality is, NATO as a whole. So if you take a look at you take a look at NATO as a whole. They don't spend enough money on their national defense. They don't have the capability. They don't have the capability or infrastructure to ramp up national defense. So NATO as a whole, if every single country within NATO got together and decided they were going to fight the Russians, we would still have to commit American forces in order to achieve that victory. NATO as a whole cannot do it. And when you look at what's going on right now, it's not NATO as a whole. It's a couple of countries. And what most people don't understand is NATO has already fucking used up all their ammo. All the ammo that they had been building for years and years and years to fight the Russians in the first place, or the Soviet Union. NATO's already used it.
So why are they doing this?
Because they are.
Is this a Davos thing?
No,
pull the puppet strings to be against the United States.
It's not a Davos thing. It's a woke. It's a woke revolution that has happened over the past 10 years, not just in the United States, heavily in Europe. This woke revolution that has happened in these countries These people are now backed up against a wall. They can't go, the Prime Minister of Britain, because of the way they have been doing their politics, they cannot now go, well, what's the most important thing? Peace in Europe. Let's have the Americans who have really the most influence and the only ones that can bring a real bat to the fucking table. Let's have the Americans create a peace deal with Russia and end this fucking war. They can't do it because it's Donald Trump. So they have to keep wagging they have to keep towing that fucking political line, that religious political wokeism, and be like, fuck Donald Trump, even though we're going to do whatever it is that Donald Trump is telling you to do, because Donald Trump is only trying to stop a war.
So what do you think is going to happen?
Oh, well, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but what did Donald Trump do?
Put all the trannies out of the military?
Well, I mean, again, they're non-deployable, so why do we have them in there in the first place? What did Donald Trump do? He immediately came out the next day and he froze all fucking military aid to Ukraine. Now, if France and Britain and any other of those fucking bumbling NATO countries really were serious about what they're telling their constituents, then it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered if America was like, yeah, we're just not going to send you any more shit. But you know who is now coming to the table and regretting the confrontation that he had with Donald Trump? You know who is now coming to the table and actually talking about ending the war in Ukraine? Zelensky. Why? Because he went back to Europe.
Yeah, I heard they were trying to oust him.
Well, he went back to Europe, and the Europeans were like, behind closed doors, the Europeans were like, hey, we can't go to war with Russia. We can't do it. If America is not on board, we can't do it. So Zelensky had to come back and be like, hey, I'm really sorry about what happened. Maybe I'll get a suit and a tie. Let's figure out how we can end this war. He knows he has to end the war now because the money train is over.
What happens if we pull our people home, go America first, and just be isolationist for a year? What do you see happening? Walmart collapses, everything becomes more expensive. Yes, it's definitely painful, but I think it would be better for the United States in the long run. Pay the bills off, build the fucking, and let the world see what happens when the United States isn't there.
For the world, okay? The problem is people have been following this globalist agenda that has nothing to do with democracy. It has nothing to do with the Republic of America. They've been following a globalist agenda that says nothing matters as long as we are still in power, right? That's the big thing that they're afraid of. It's why the Germans, the current German parliament is more like their Nazi counterparts than they are anything else, because they won't allow any other parties. That's no different than what Adolf Hitler did. And they're doing it right now in the name of, we don't want to end up like World War II Germany, but you're doing it already. You're doing it anyways. So you already are. Us becoming isolationists works short term. So the United States could pull back. The United States could pull back from, meaning if, we just, fuck it, we're going to bring everybody home, right? It would work short term. But we are the guarantors of democracy in the world. I promise you, if the United States becomes isolationist, the world will burn. War will erupt in Europe like we haven't seen since World War II. The Chinese will go after every fucking thing they can get their fucking hands on. It will be a nightmare. And it won't, when you look at Europe and everybody's like, ooh, Russia's the evil boogeyman. There are other people in Europe that would love the opportunity to attempt to increase their borders, not just Russia. The fucking players would become instant enemies, and there would be serious problems because nobody else has the capability. Nobody else has the capability to project force like we do. Nobody else. And so it would be a grab bag, and the world would be on fire, and then you know what would happen? We would have to fucking fix it again. it's the reality is we can't not be the policeman of the world, and sometimes everybody hates the cops, even though the only reason why Germany can be Germany is because of America. The only reason why France can be France is because of America.
After World War One, Treaty of Versailles, Germany was completely broke, right?
Yeah.
After World War One, how did they raise up and make all that? Where'd all that funds come from to become that superpower again? And how did that happen? Being so impoverished and having nothing in their country that.
Well, all you have to do is kill the idea of the debt, right? So for example, right now, we're 39 trillion in debt or something like that, somewhere in that frame. Realistically, none of that is real.
Correct.
It's not real. It doesn't really exist. It only exists if you allow other people to decide the destiny of that debt, right? So, for example, China owns the most of the United States' debt. China owns the debt. Tomorrow, literally, we could go out and say, now, don't get me wrong, it would create a fucking chaos that the world hasn't seen since World War II. But tomorrow, Trump could literally come out and go, by the way, I've closed the Fed. The United States is, now that Elon has gone through Fort Knox and found all the gold, we're going back on the gold standard. And I don't give a fuck about the debt. It doesn't exist.
What do you know about the gold? Where are we at with that?
I'm sure they're going to...
Because they keep saying Fort Knox. You see a lot of people saying that they went through there, the gold wasn't there, but you're not seeing any official statement from them. The gold that supposedly is not there, and it's not just Fort Knox. We have 100 locations where we hold gold, apparently.
It's there.
But they've been flying it back in. So that gold that we have has been loaned out to Europe, and then they take loans against that gold, and they come in and they audit, take loans against that collateral.
It is a gold Ponzi scheme. You don't have to move.
There's been flights coming into the United States.
You don't have to move gold. You don't have to move gold in order to create the Ponzi scheme of it. Meaning, I want you to think about how many people during COVID bought shares on all those commercials that you saw where they bought shares in gold. They were buying something that didn't exist, right? I do believe that if they go to Fort Knox, they're going to find the gold. Now the question is, if Elon audits Fort Knox, is all the original gold still there?
When they audited some of the vaults over in Europe, they found identical serial numbers on several bars. And when they started going through those bars and testing them, they found that they are not actually real.
That'll be the interesting thing, is if they actually audit it.
What was Fort Knox originally built for?
It was was it a Civil War prison?
And they have tanks there, right? There's
tanks, that's just
supposedly
because Fort Knox is actually a military base, and it has changed over time. But it is the home of the armored division. That's where all the armor training is done, is at Fort Knox. So that's not.
See Fort Bragg's Fort Bragg again.
Yeah, that's got nothing to do with. Tanks being at Fort Knox has nothing to do with Fort Knox.
Got it.
It's just, that's the base, right?
So what do you see happening in Ukraine? What do you think happens in the next 4 weeks, 6 weeks? Or are we still doing the same bullshit 6 weeks?
No. I think that there's going to be that the European countries are going to continue to saber rattle, to pretend like they have any say in what's going on. Rubio is going to push for a peace deal with the Russians. The Russians are ready to make that deal. What's going to happen is Ukraine is going to lose basically what they have already lost. Mm-hmm. We're going to be Russia. They're going to lose what they basically have already lost. And Russia is going to be in the same fucking situation that it was when it invaded, is it Finland or Norway? it's been a long time since I talked about that, but the Russians are going to be like, we took just enough land to bury our dead. That's what it's going to be. And Zelensky, next year, Zelensky's going to be in his fucking mansion on his boat in Florida. He's not going to be in Ukraine.
When I say
as soon as they have elections, Zelensky's gone.
When I say Foreign Legion, what do you think of?
Well, I always think of the French. Yeah.
Do you know that Ukraine has a Foreign Legion?
Yes.
You can go on their website right now, and they will bring you there, and they'll train you, and they'll put you in that war. So all those kids that were holding those signs,
they
up there in Vermont when Vance was up there, and we're supporting. They should take every one of those fucking congressmen and send them motherfuckers over to Ukraine.
So, I was thinking if I, again, I'm not the president, but if I was the president, I would have told Zelensky. So Zelensky in Ukraine, they have rape vans.
Yeah.
Basically vans.
There's videos of it.
Yeah, basically vans of soldiers that go around, find anybody that is of military age, and they snatch them off the fucking street, right?
Yeah, they had a Down syndrome kid up there on the fucking front lines.
Yeah, snatch them off the street. And, I was thinking, maybe that Trump should be like, hey, you can go through Facebook and any military age males that are supporting the cause in Ukraine, you can come here and snatch them up, take them to Ukraine. You can take them to Ukraine. I say that strictly tongue in cheek. I am not against the Ukrainian people. Any nation, any sovereign nation, even as corrupt as Ukraine is, should have the opportunity and ability to defend itself against a foreign nation.
I wonder if given the option, how many people in prison would opt to go fight in Ukraine via
nobody.
No.
There's a.
What about those Venezuelan prisons and shit? Those supermax prisons and shit.
I mean, you might be able to convince, like we'll talk about those Venezuelan supermax prisons. You might be able to convince a group of individuals that your freedom, because you have to look at it this way. Let's say you're in Venezuela and you're in that supermax, which is, those fucking things are hell on earth, and you're never going to leave that place. Mm-hmm. And I say, hey, go to Ukraine and fight for 4 years, or go to Ukraine and fight for a year, and you're good to go. We're gonna do like the Catholic Church you should do. All your sins will be acknowledged. I think that you would have a large group of individuals. You'd have a large group of individuals that would take that chance.
Yeah, thinking at least they could escape.
Yeah, on the idea that they could get away. But again, those individuals would suffer way worse than even the North Koreans, because they don't have
North Koreans are getting decimated. I heard there was also Chinese there. Did you hear that?
I don't think. Here's the thing. I don't think Xi Jinping, I don't think Pooh Bear would send Chinese ground troops. There might be Chinese observers to kind of see what's going on, because again, the thing about the Ukraine war is it's a great study, meaning you can identify the things that are going to be in the next real war. You can, if you're it doesn't matter what country you're from. You could be from fucking Zimbabwe. Why wouldn't you send observers to go observe what's going on, so you could be like, oh, okay, I don't need to buy 5th generation fighters. I need to buy 1,000 drones, or whatever the thing is, right? Whatever the technology is. So I'm sure that there are Chinese observers there, but I guarantee you there's no fighting guys there, because, and the only reason why I say that is he doesn't want to. Pooh Bear doesn't want to give anything away. The problem with the Russian campaign is Russia has given too much stuff away, meaning we've identified how weak their technology actually is.
Yeah, that's what Trump was telling Zelensky. He's like, I gave you those. What were those missiles they had? He's like, I gave you those. Biden didn't even give you anything that would punch those tanks. The javelins.
Javelins, yeah. So, again, you don't want to give anything away. It's like, I don't know if you probably don't remember this, but in the beginning of the war, Russia was flying the S-35s against Ukrainians.
And then the Ukrainians put up that bullshit about that fucking, they put up footage from a video game.
Yeah, well,
the ghost of Ukraine.
Well, the Ukrainians actually shot an S-35 down. And Pooh Bear was like, hey, do not fly any more S-35s in the Ukraine conflict, because that's the primary aircraft of the Chinese Air Force. And so he told Putin, stop flying those planes there, because I don't want people to know what a piece of shit this airplane is. And so that's why Putin's not flying those aircraft against fucking targets in Ukraine.
So what are they flying? Just MiGs?
They're flying whatever the fuck they can get their hands on. Old shit. Because again, you don't want to give away, like, you can't. It's like the Russians' sixth generation or fifth generation fighter, their SU, whatever it is. It does these aerial tricks and it does these things, right? And then they landed on it was somewhere in, I believe it was Paris. They brought that plane in. And then real airplane guys started walking around the plane, and they're like,
paper mache.
No, they're like, look at this row of Phillips head screws. and then started identifying the fact that, like, because of the type of screw it is, they're like, there's no way this fucking aircraft is stealth. There's no way that the cross section just on these Phillips head screws alone is not giving this airplane away.
It's similar metal. This metal's rotting. This metal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So again, that is the one thing that we'll just say the communist world, they don't want you to really know that the thing they have really isn't as good as they're telling you it is. It's not that good. I mean, so again, it's just going back to Ukraine. What I see happening is there is going to be a peace deal. It's going to be brokered by the United States. The European Union is going to fucking cave to whatever peace deal that is, and we'll probably see a coalition. I mean, you have to go back and listen to what Trump said before, right? He's like, the Russians are going to lose some ground, the Ukrainians are going to lose some ground. We're going to set up a fucking DMZ, and it's going to be patrolled by NATO troops, not American troops. It won't be American boots on the ground. It's going to be NATO troops. Now, he said that a long time ago. Nobody's paying attention to that because everybody's arguing over, decorum in the White House. When this is said and done, just like everything else, when it is said and done, it's going to be exactly how Trump said it was going to be. It's going to be France is going to go, it's us. We're going to put French troops there. And there's going to be some French troops. There's going to be some fucking British troops. But here's the thing that nobody ever pays attention to. Like, if you think of the UN, or you think of NATO, you can put fucking Bangladesh troops on that border to fucking march back and forth and make sure nobody's doing anything semi-illegal. But the minute a Ukrainian tank or a Russian tank crosses that line, who do you think is going to be the one to enforce the will of whatever the rules are? It'll be the United States. It's always the United States. The UN has never had a successful mission. NATO has never had a successful mission outside of the United States, outside of the United States backing. So,
do you see the footage of I think it was a Russian tank. It's coming, rolls up on all these Ukrainian troops, and then fires. Yeah. What they think was going to fucking happen? They think it was their tank?
They thought it was their tank. Yeah, that is one of the problems of.
And it's not a piece of ordnance that killed them. It's just the blast, right?
I did. The blast would kill you at that range. I don't know if they fired a HE round, which would also fucking, be miserable for whoever was there. That's why you see everybody wearing armbands, right? Because they're again, what people fail to remember is Ukraine
was Russia
is more Russian than they are anything else. Kiev was the original capital of fucking Russia. They're more Russian than they are anything else.
How come they haven't just smashed Kiev? It's like Trump was saying. He said, those gold domes are shattered. Yeah. Those buildings are never going to rebuild any of that shit. It's never going to be built like that. I don't think we even can build it like that anymore.
Well, I don't know. We did a pretty good job. We did a pretty good job of returning Europe to. We did a pretty good job of returning Europe to pre-World War II Europe. Meaning we did a good job of creating those. Like if you go, there's plenty of places where you go that were completely destroyed by the war that still look like they did before the war.
Do you think they are like they were, or do you think it's just fucking paper mache and facade?
No, they are. On the west side, in the Eastern Bloc countries, like you could, after the wall came down, you could still go into East Germany and see the bullet holes in the walls and shit like that. No, they really rebuilt Europe. I mean, we spent a lot of America spent billions of dollars rebuilding Europe. And so, yeah, we do a good job of, I'm sure that even Ukraine, that a lot of the things when you take a look at like Bakhmut and places like that, it was all really drab Soviet block housing anyways. Like it was... Again, who is it? BlackRock. When BlackRock goes in there and rebuilds, it's going to be way nicer than it was before, But any of the historical stuff, like if there was a historical church or whatever, I'll bet they rebuild it just like it was before.
All right, so I guess we put the United States put the tariffs in place on Canada yesterday.
Yeah,
done deal. Good. For real.
Yeah, good.
Canada came out, and it's funny every time I see somebody from Canada, it's a person I've never seen before. Heavy set dude. The premier of Canada or whoever he is, and he's like, we don't want to do it. We'd rather sell them more electricity, but we'll turn their electricity off with a smile.
That's Ontario.
And an act of war is turning off a country's electricity. I saw a bunch of YouTubers break this down, and Tim Pool was reading it, and he's like, here are when you read this, that is in fact an act of war. Now, we're obviously not going to send troops into Canada, but I guarantee that power will be fucking turned back on.
Okay.
And all their natural gas comes from us. It comes into the United States and then back, right?
Let's go back. Let's just go back to what I said before. You have a bunch of woke leadership that loves to rattle their sabers, and they love to fucking talk shit.
Shouldn't there be a punishment for it at some point?
But wait, though. They love to talk shit. This dude from Ontario did say, yes, we will just fucking turn the power off.
With a smile.
Yeah, with a smile. You know what Ontario has not done? You know what they haven't done? They didn't turn the power off. They haven't turned the power off. And you know what they're not going to do? They're not going to turn the power off. You know why they're not going to turn the power off? Because they have no way to make up the $4.8 billion
I heard it was $22 billion
that they receive for that electricity.
I heard Trump say that we give them $22 billion a year.
Well, that's probably Canada in general.
Yes.
But we're just talking about the electricity. So they don't have the capability of making that up. That is the problem. That is the problem with fucking
what are they mad about?
That's the problem with all these countries. Is the foundational brick that is underneath their house, that is the thing that has been holding them up for years.
It's red, white, and blue.
It's red, white, and blue. So again, here's the truth. The truth that even Canada doesn't want to tell you. The truth is, Canada doesn't exist without us. They don't exist. The reality is how about we just tell Russia that, hey, when we talk about North America, Canada's really not part of that. We don't care what you do.
Or you can just have that top part up there.
They don't have the capability to defend themselves. They've been under the umbrella of the United States this whole time. That's how they can, the reality is that's how they can live this carefree bullshit lifestyle that they live that's not working. Their economy was crashing way before any of this. Canada has higher tariffs on American goods than we have on their goods. The only thing he's doing is he's leveling the playing field. Like he's like, hey, let's be equal footing. Let's make this equal. We're going to put some tariffs on your shit. You've got tariffs on our shit. Let's make it equal. And these motherfuckers are going bananas. You know why they're going bananas? Because their countries can't afford to go to war with us.
They're the ones that have the tariffs. We didn't have any tariffs on fucking Canada.
No, Canada.
The simple answer is remove your tariffs.
Both Canada and Mexico have tariffs on goods that come from the United States.
Yeah, that's what Trump said. If you're 25, we're 25. If you go to 0, we'll go to 0.
So again,
let Russia have the top half. Mm-hmm. We'll take the bottom half. I'm sure a lot of our boys here would love to have some Russian women. They're thought to be very fucking beautiful.
And you know, the other thing about Canada is, or the other thing about these tariffs is, think about just forget about American and Canadian. Just think about people. Just people. When Trump started this tariff issue with Canada and Mexico, he had one stipulation. One. Stop the fentanyl from crossing your borders. Stop it. Just stop the fentanyl from crossing your borders. Now, I am sure, 100%, that if Canada would have went, yeah, you know what? The trafficking of illegal substance across our borders through China, coming from China through Canada into the United States is a terrible thing, and we should do something about that. Let's get on board with this. Let's get on board with this with Donald Trump and fucking figure out a way to stop it. Not even stopping it, just coming to the table and going, let's figure out a way to stop it. There wouldn't be any tariffs on Canada. Trump would have been like, thank you for coming to the table, and thank you for helping us with this problem. No tariffs. But what did Canada do? They specifically changed the talking points from fentanyl to a tariff war. It's a tariff war. We're going to have a tariff war. We didn't have to have a tariff war. All you had to do was fucking stop fentanyl.
What would happen if they did turn the power off?
Nothing. We'd get the power from somewhere else. There's going to be a little bit of fucking, there'll be a little bit of wrangling just because.
Why don't they just call their bluff?
Well, again, John, I don't have to call their bluff because they are the Democratic Party all around the world. They have no bite. They're barking. It's like a fucking chihuahua. They're just barking. They have no bite. There's nothing they can do. They can't turn the power off. They're not going to turn the power off because they can't fucking afford it. They can't afford it. This is no different when the Ukrainian war started. When the Ukrainian war started, where was Europe? Where was Europe when the Ukrainian war started? Oh, they weren't talking shit about Russia. Why? Because they were getting their fucking fuel from Russia. And they were afraid that Russia was going to turn it off. And so what did we do? As America, what did we do? We turned it off for them. They don't have the capability. That's the problem it's the big problem with liberals or liberal Democrats. They're fucking chihuahuas. They fucking chirp, 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 chirp. But it's also what makes them dangerous because they are such fucking weak individuals. They're very easily backed into a corner. And they're all backed into a corner. The entire world is backed into a corner because Trump is leading the way leaders should lead.
All right, Mexico,
same thing.
A lot of stuff coming out saying that ex-soft guys are actually training cartel dudes. Apparently, there's some evidence of this, some proof, actual.
Well, okay,
confirmed.
So you got.
Yeah, how far removed? Sure.
No, you got a little bit of a caveat there. So you know how most things are true but not true. Like there's a little bit of truth. All you have to have is a little bit of truth sprinkled in there, and then that makes the whole thing true, even though it's probably not. The reality is, we trained a ton of fucking cartel guys.
Yeah, we trained all their military guys, which became the Zetas or whatever.
We trained a ton of military guys. Yes. The fucking cartel, South American cartel members who are now cartel members came to the United States, went to the schools of America, was trained by all our fucking whatever they wanted to be. They wanted to be air assault, whatever. Yeah. And then back to their countries. If you're a fucking, I don't know. I mean, just let's be clear. If you're a Honduran special forces guy who's making shit for money, and then the cartels are like, hey, you know, it'd be really cool if you came up here and we gave you $1 million to train these kids on how to. Of course, that
Bell-shaped ambush. Yeah.
There's no. Here's the thing. There's no real evidence. There's no real evidence of real soft guys acting independently and training cartel members.
So you know about the Stryker Brigade?
Yeah, that they're moving all kinds of stuff down.
Yeah, 2,400 men.
Yeah.
The Strykers are pretty badass. That's what they're using over in Ukraine, right? That's what's fucking up all the tanks and shit. That's what
Well, they're using Bradleys to fuck up the tank, but the Stryker,
okay.
the Stryker's a good vehicle.
So where are these Strykers going? Our side of the border, or are they going to do incursions into Mexico?
Our side of the border. We're not going to cross the border. Not yet.
So what's the purpose of them? Just show a force? Or so that they can rapidly move in?
No, the reality is when you put large groups of military members on the border is we went from 10,000 people crossing a day to 3.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. That's how you close the border. That's all it is. It's just them closing the border.
So
right?
There's no plan to use those guys?
Not yet.
And then 10th SF is going down, 7th SF I guess is going in.
You have to
They have 200 people on the ground apparently.
Mm-hmm. There is still a strategic
there's 12 ODAs, I guess.
There's still 7th group is everything south of the border. They've always have been.
So that'd be all the JTF stuff,
yeah.
Joint Task Force.
So you're still. There were what is it? Mutual security agreements that were going on before any of this. So meaning when you think about 7 Special Forces, 7 Special Forces was doing south of the border stuff before Trump.
Where are they based out of?
I don't know exactly where 7th is.
I don't think I've ever met anybody with 7th.
Yeah, you have.
Okay.
Yeah, you have.
Okay.
So south of the border, you know, that kind of that's their bread and butter anyways. And so there's ongoing things that were planned 4 years ago or 6 years ago. So when outside of 10th Mountain, outside of like 10th Mountain moving down to the border or Marines from Camp Pendleton moving down to the border, most of those, let's just call them ninjas. Most of the ninja stuff was already planned and paid for years ago, right? And it's just Trump now going.
So just like this ICBM we just launched, that was planned. That was on the fucking flight log 4 years ago.
That was on the flight log 4 years ago. It's just the way it works.
Didn't they just drone strike a cartel dude? Like fucking took him out?
I don't know.
Like Hellfire missiled him or something?
It's possible, but I don't know.
And we're using U2s again? I guess the U2s back up and that's fucking badass.
Yeah, it has some improvements on it.
Yeah.
And it's just, excuse me. The reason why is because the U2 plane, because of the way it was designed, it can loiter a long time. And so I can put a fucking U2 plane up over Mexico for probably, I'll bet that motherfucker flies over there for 12 hours.
And everybody's like, well, it better not cross into Mexico airspace. What the fuck's Mexico going to do? Like, what if we cross their airspace? You're going to have a tersely worded, apparently Shine Bomb or whatever her name is. It has no fucking control over Mexico anyways. The fucking...
There's actually a press conference because obviously we've been flying more Predator drones, more of the... It's a Navy spy plane, and then you got the U-2 planes. And she's at a press conference, and she's like, you know, she's doing her thing, the thing that she has to do because, again, otherwise the cartel's just going to kill her. She's doing her fuck America, fuck America, fuck America, and somebody asked her about the planes, right? Somebody actually mentioned it to her, and she immediately goes, well, these are ongoing security issues that we have already predetermined and allowed, and they're here at our request and blah, blah, blah. So, again, they're not going to shoot down a fucking spy plane because...
Did you hear her say, we'll just close off sales from America. We have 7 million, or I don't know what the number was. We have 7 billion people that'll buy cell phones from China. Like, motherfucker, like you're not buying cell phones from China anyways. All the cell phones come from China no matter where you buy them from.
People have people have a false expectation of how the world really is, how the world really works, and how things really exist. It's kind of like the 25,000. It's kind of like the 25,000 people that cross the border. That cross the border legally every day from Mexico into the United States, back and forth, because Americans living in Mexico. That's an economy boom that those border towns have to have. So, you know, when your national GDP, when you have your federal GDP, Mexico, where you are counting the dollars that your citizens are sending back, you're not a real threat. You're just not a real threat. Your economy doesn't sustain it. When your biggest economy thing is the illegal drug trade, you're really not a real threat.
Yeah, not even fully the illegal drug trade. When we moved here to this town, I went to the Mexican restaurants and I'm like, "Where are your women at? We want to hire them for sewing." And they're like, "All of our wives are in Mexico. Our wives and families are in Mexico. We Western Union money to our families, and we have white girlfriends here in this town."
You're going to get them all in trouble, Sean.
Nobody knows who they are. I'm sure no.
There's only one Mexican restaurant.
Nah, we got multiples now. I'm sure those senoritas in Mexico are not listening to this.
They might be. We
just hired a Mexican girl.
Here?
Right here.
She has to know where there's more.
She was even like, "Can I leave 20 minutes early today?" I'm like, "Sure, what's up?" She's like, "I want to go to church." I go, "Is it something special today?" She's like, "Yeah, I go to the Catholic church. It's Ash Wednesday."
Oh, yeah. And that's a tiny Catholic church in Camden.
Yeah, I don't know which one she's going to, but...
Yeah, the one in Camden's tiny. Yeah, so again...
So where's that fucking Epstein list?
Well, you I don't know if you noticed the head of the...
FBI resigned?
Head of the not the FBI, but the head of the New York office resigned because he was the one that was he was the one cherry picking that.
Do you not think they destroyed a lot of that evidence already?
No.
And do you not think that people are currently in office? When Trump and Bondi get a hold of that, they're going to be like, "Hey, motherfuckers, we got this."
Here's the thing about that. Here's the thing about that. That kind of evidence, right? When you're in the permanent government, you're really, at least the way the country has been run up to this point, right? Donald Trump is a wild card. Like, the reality is he's a wild card. You had both Obama, Dum Dum, and Clinton talking about accountability and we need to audit the government and blah blah blah, and they never did. You have this permanent government that what I know as, let's say, the deputy director of NSA or the CIA or whatever. What I know is you're gone in 3 years. Like, the reality is you probably have about the way it's always worked politically. You probably have about 2 years where you can do something, and you really have to do something that has nothing to do with me. So as long as I know that I'm going to be here for the next 20 years, then whatever political information that I have, I'm going to hold on to. I'm not going to destroy it just because, as a Republican, I'm not going to destroy that information just because a Democrat has taken office and has started to snoop around. Because I know that I'm still going to be able to use that over the next 4 years, and then I'm going to be able to definitely use it in the next administration, right? I know that I can still manipulate things. Now, the problem with Trump is they've already gone after him for everything that they could possibly go after him for, right? They've already showed their cards. The fucking deep state has thrown their cards out, and they're like, holy fuck, because Donald Trump, I mean, you think about it. Donald Trump did Donald Trump stuff all the way up to before he decided to be president. The Democrats loved him. The Democrats begged him to run for office, right? The Democrats loved him and begged him to run for office. So he never was embroiled in the machine long enough for them to get real stuff on him. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you think like Maxine Waters, I guarantee you they got a fucking whole subreddit of dirt on that girl that it makes her easily manipulated, right? All these, like that dude, I can't even think of his name, that fucking Democrat senator who stood up with his golden cane, like his golden cane, and he's like protesting. Come on, dude.
You have no mandate. Yeah, now they're going to censor him.
Yeah, good.
Whatever.
Bye. You're fucking, you know what?
Nobody had heard of that motherfucker in years. He's the one that brought the impeachment against Trump last time.
He has done nothing for his constituency. He has done nothing for America. Gone. Get rid of him. Fuck him. And so...
Who's the preacher that was starting all the fucking racist shit at Costco recently? What?
I don't know.
Al Sharpton. That motherfucker is just a cheap fucking lesser Al Sharpton.
Yeah. So... Again, it's just, I don't even know where I was going with it, but.
So you think we'll see the Epstein list? Who are the crimes? So if you have 280 victims, who victimized them?
Here is the problem. This to me, this is the problem. The problem is everybody's. Let's see the list.
No, I don't want the flight log.
Let's see the list.
Who committed the crime?
Yeah, the list doesn't matter. We know that the FBI knows.
Some pictures popped up this morning of Bill Clinton in the swimming pool with a little girl.
That's what I'm saying. The FBI knows who committed actual crimes. Like they know. Now this is where it gets deep, okay? This is the hard part. The hard part is, and this is why I think unilaterally even Trump is like, fuck, I don't know if I can release this list.
Not without upsetting Israel.
Because that entire operation was a Mossad operation. It was Mossad that was running that thing. I know. The Mossad and the CIA, that's a thing that most people don't know. Mossad and CIA do not get along.
Have you seen what Candace Owens is doing right now?
Besides saying that the French president is married to
a man,
fucking her man, possibly father.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Canada's not, and France is like, here's $4 million. Will you be quiet?
They gave Candace Owens $4 million.
They tried to give her $4 million to shut her up.
So there's a lot of shit out. I just heard Tate say it. Andrew Tate flew into Florida, and the governor of Florida said, "You're not welcome here." He's like, "How am I not welcome here? I've not even been to trial on anything. I've been fucking indicted of nothing. I've been convicted of nothing." And you just automatically, he goes, "If you want me to teach you how to do press, I'll teach you that." Like, he's like, great interview, almost 4 hours long on PBD, Valuetainment. And he said a lot of things. He said, a lot of people are saying that the Nazis did not actually do what the Nazis were accused of. The winners of the war have rewritten history. There's a lot of shit saying that, for instance, when the photographs were taken liberating the camps, it was well after the fact. They came back and restaged those photos and built those chimneys. There were no smokestacks at those camps, a lot of them are saying. And that when the camps were actually liberated, there was snow on the ground. And when you see the photos, there is no snow on the ground. There are survivors that were rescued from the camp that said that's because those photos were taken 6 months after the fact. And that's what Candace Owens is saying. She's like, I'm going down. My next big expose, my next series is on how we were lied to about World War II.
You can't go down. You cannot go down a Nazi. You cannot go down a Nazi didn't do it thing. Okay. You can't go down that rabbit hole. And Candace Owens really should be careful about going down that hole, because the reality is 100% the reality. The Germans did all of that. They did it all. We watched, they documented it. The Germans documented it because they believed that they were going to win. They documented it. Now, you could argue, there could be a good argument about when Jews are fucking rattling their sabers and talking about how evil the Nazis were and how bad they were to Jews. as bad as they were to Jews, they were worse to Russians. They killed more fucking Russians in the same manner than they did Jews.
Is it true that in every religion you're not allowed to borrow money from people within your religion? I keep hearing that. Like, I've heard that a lot lately, and I'm hearing it from multiple. Maybe just because I've heard it once, so I'm noticing it now.
I don't know about that, but there is a.
So it is said that the Jewish people come into a country because they get pushed from one place, and they become the money exchangers and the lenders, and they take all the money, and that's when the economy starts going to shit because of the interest rates, and they have loaned out all the money, and then they get pushed out of another place, and now they have landed. The Jews that remained from the area were placed into what is now Israel.
Well, you have to understand that you're gonna get totally banned here. Is the exploitation of anyone who is not Jewish. So the complete exploitation of non-Jews is okay in the Jewish faith.
Yeah, Goyim. What's the other? What's their other? The Vermont. I can't think of the name. They have another book that they go off of that is not the Bible.
But
and in that there are 9 different sexual. It's not just male female. There's trannies in there. The bark mute.
I don't know.
Bark mute. And they can have sex with a boy under 9 and a female under the age of 3 is actually written into this book.
I mean, you could
and then
go.
The rabbis say the only person that supersedes and overrides God is the rabbi who writes the word.
You can go down some rabbit holes, but if we circle back,
and that was the Rothschilds that put them into Israel.
The Germans did all of that shit.
Okay.
It's a revisionist idea to think that they didn't. That's how horrific.
Then why can't you question it?
Well, I mean, you can't. You can question it. You can question it, but you're questioning. A lot of times, what we're doing is we're questioning it from a. We're questioning it from a position of we're too far removed, and because we're too far removed, and we're too self-absorbed in the world that we live. Because here's the problem. The problem is most people, so I'm going to say 90% of the world, we believe that the only history that is real is the history that we lived in, because that's what we can verify, right? And so that's why you still have fucking idiots that think we didn't land on the moon. That's why you have people who are questioning whether the Germans were really as evil as they were. They were fucking evil. The question you have to ask yourself, was there a reason why they were that evil? And was there a reason why they picked the people that they picked? That's what you have to ask yourself. Is you have to be willing to go down those particular rabbit holes. But again, the Russians were the Germans were fucking evil. They were particularly evil in how they handled people that they deemed non-pure, right? The non-pures. They killed. The reality is they fucking killed a shit ton of Germans who they didn't believe.
Yeah,
that's where they started.
Yeah, any of the homosexuals they killed, prostitutes they killed, anybody out of mental facilities they killed.
That's where they
sterilized.
So, again, they had an idea and they fulfilled that idea. That is no different than the current woke. That is no different than the current woke movement. I mean, when you think about it,
absolutely it is.
When you think about the current woke movement, right? When you think about it, it was people on the left that were talking about putting people in camps. Yep. It was people on the left that were talking about killing people.
We were very close to Germany of that time just recently here.
Yeah.
Trump just fucking with the signature of a pen unraveled it, but it's not written in stone yet. It's not what is. It's only what is for 4 years here.
Well, no, I think that there's
had the other side won, they would be putting people in camps right now.
I think the issue is
Trump would be in prison right fucking now had he not won this election.
I think the issue is this: that our generation, what are we, X or whatever the fuck we are, that our generation has always been that 80s, that 80s 90s generation has always been leave me the fuck alone. I'm going to do my thing. I'm not hurting anybody else. It shouldn't fucking matter. Judge people based off of who they are, not by anything else, right? And we have been that way. Well, if you look at what's going on, Generation X is taking over. They're taking over the government. They're taking over all that shit. And Generation X is the fuck you generation. And so I think that Generation X, I think we have come to the realization that we can no longer just be like, I'm not fucking with you, you don't fuck with me. We have to come out and be like, the 900 medals that you gave to inadequate men competing against women, that don't stand. Give them back to the girls who fucking worked their asses off to get in the position they were to win those medals, because the whole point of having a fucking male and female, two different
leagues
is so that women can excel, so that women can get fucking college degrees, so women can go on to better paying careers in those fields. Men shouldn't be involved in that at all. Okay. I don't care what, And so I think that's what's happening. And I think the Democratic Party is going to have a real hard fucking time coming back from this.
What's going to fill the void? It'll be worse.
No.
No?
No. I mean, the only thing, if you look at what's going on, is we're just returning to our original roots. I mean, you said something just a little while ago that pre-World War II was the norm. America, fuck the rest of the world. We're just going to be isolationists. Now, I say we're beyond that we can't do that because the world is so fucked up. But
not without locking a bunch of people away or fucking pushing them out of the country. You can't.
That's where we're going back to.
Back to major asylums to lock away your crazy people.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, how much, like when you see people on the left trying to make an argument.
Well, I mean, literally threatening the president. On
when you're trying to make an argument and your emotions are so high that you can't make a coherent statement. That's mental illness. That is just mental illness. If you can't say 2 + 2 is 4, you have a mental illness.
Are you in our local Facebook group here? I posted up again. I said, "Hey, I'm going to have auditions between 10 a.m. today and 2 p.m. today."
Auditions?
Yeah, for employees. I'm auditioning new employees. Show up. Huh? That's all I said. I said, "Who's hiring?" Maybe I am. I'm going to have job auditions here. 20 people fucking showed up here within, quickly, faster than ever before. Just showed up. Some of them were completely incompetent, couldn't do a single job here, but somehow found here. Others walked in and I'm like, all right, we'll definitely hire this one. All right, we'll hire this one. This one's a maybe. But over the next 2 days, people have just lost their shit over, oh my God, he didn't say what the job is. He said auditions. That means he's going to make you work for free. Oh my God, he didn't say what the pay rate is. Well, that's because we don't know what we're hiring. I walked out of the gym at 5 a.m. and Amanda's making card packs. So I'm like, surely I can find somebody, anybody could do this job. So we had a girl making card packs. We had a girl, we had so many show up, we had to clean tables off, and my guys weren't doing their jobs to see if this person could do the job. And it's just gone on and on and on. And this dude last night was just tagged me back and forth a dozen times. And I'm like, you have a job. You work at a pharmacy. You don't want this job. He's like, well, I'm just advocating for other people. Some people just can't work social media. Well, then I don't fucking need them in my business. If you can't, well, it's hard for some people to get there. They might not have gas money. Well, then I clearly don't need you as a fucking employee then. I have a motherfucker that walked to work for a year.
You had a guy, he was a good employee, I think. You had a guy who fucking rode a lawnmower here.
That's Hugo. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. He came in every Monday, asked for a job. I didn't even need him to work here. And he worked for 16 years for us. I don't need the person who Like, can't just have the fucking...
Yeah, the reality is if you have people in your life...
Hold on top of that, how many people have moved across the goddamn United States to fucking come work here? We've had 2 fucking people pack what they could fit in a car and drive from fucking Alaska.
Well, I mean, because Alaska sucks.
So...
It's cold.
But these motherfuckers can't get to work somehow.
Well, that's the issue.
But it's the virtual signaling, right? We have all these justice warriors out here, and when you look at these girls, they're like, "Girl, you better be careful. You're just going to some place. This seems super shady. This is a scam. You're gonna get abducted." I'm like, I've been here 20 fucking years.
Yeah.
I've employed hundreds of people,
and I hate to tell you that the girl you know who's looking for a job, she ain't getting abducted.
No.
She ain't getting abducted.
And that's the thing, man. They're all obese. They're all fucking, every one of them. And when you look at their Facebook pages, who's hiring for $20 an hour immediately? Nobody. You're not worth $20 an hour.
Yeah.
You haven't ever worked anywhere for $10 an hour.
If you have a group of people in your life and you feel like you have to advocate to get them a job, you need new friends. You need new friends. Even when people are talking about it's hard to get a job, even now, if you really want a job, there's a job.
Yeah.
There is a job. And you know what? All those jobs, for the most part, all those jobs have the capability of rewarding good work. Motherfucking the McDonald's in my town is hiring.
$20 an hour.
They're hiring right now. I don't know what the pay is, but what I do know about McDonald's is if you go in there and you fucking work your ass off, they'll send you to college.
Yeah.
So again, the opportunities are there.
They just won't do it next week.
Yeah, that's it. And maybe it's the phone. Maybe the problem is the phone. Is we feel like we have to have this immediate gratification, and if you think you're worth $20 an hour because you've been playing on your phone for fucking 4 days, you're not worth. Nobody is worth anything until they actually go out and
every one of their pages, you dig down 10, 15 posts down. Every other post, who's hiring immediately for $20 an hour? The next one is, everybody says they're hiring. I've put 20 applications in. Nobody's hiring. No, they're just not hiring you. When you decided to put fuck face tattooed on your fucking face, that might have precluded you from a few fucking jobs.
Are you saying that face tattoos could possibly not get you hired?
Not these people.
Because that almost looks like fuckface.
He said when he put that tattoo on his forehead, he said, I knew I would never, I had to make it my own way because nobody was going to hire me.
Wait a minute. I just noticed this because I don't judge you based off of the color of your ink. Is that in cursive? Mm-hmm. That nobody can read it anyways.
I know.
There's nobody that can read.
I had a conversation about that because I only know how to write in cursive pretty much.
Nobody can read it anyways. That's why they don't understand the Declaration of Independence doesn't say democracy anywhere in it. Because we are not a democracy, we are a republic. Long live the republic.
And the Constitution is not for you. It's to fucking limit your government. And what they can do to you. All right.
What else?
We need to go and we need to do the Patreon stuff and members.
Is it really 2221?
No, it's way beyond that.
2251.
It's after that. It's beyond that,
Holy
bro.
Shit.
It's later than that.
That's late.
Power's been off. What is your prediction when we come on here next week? What do you think we will be talking about, and what do you think is going to happen in the next 7 days?
We're either going to be talking about peace in Europe. It's going to, again, these are the dangerous times. I've said this before. Anytime a war is about to end, those are the real dangerous times.
It's been very visible since you said that. I've noticed it a lot.
When war's about to end, it gets real dangerous for the guys who actually have to fight in wars because the fucking political hierarchy that never steps foot in those arenas is trying to jockey for better position. We're either going to be talking about an end to the war in Ukraine, like really talking about it. Like right now, it's just kind of sprinkles. We'll really be talking about it, may even have some sort of deal on the table, or we'll be looking at World War III. One of the two. That's it. The economy here is going to get better. I believe Mexico. Well, again, it doesn't matter. It's one of those things. It doesn't matter what I say. Like if you're like, take the fucking trash out. I pay you to take the trash out, and I mean it matters in John's world, but in the real world, if I'm like, fuck you, I'm not going to take the goddamn trash out. I don't take the fucking trash out. I make $20 an hour, and I pick up the can and I start walking towards the fucking and I dump the trash can and I bring it back and get the liner out and put it in, and the trash is taken out. That's all Donald Trump wants. He don't care. He don't really care what these motherfuckers are saying.
But I would punch you in your mouth to make an example for all the other employees. Donald Trump needs to punch someone in the mouth.
That works on it. That works on a small scale, but on a large scale, what Donald Trump wants is results. And so again, he knows he's not going to get it. He knows he's not going to get a peace prize. He knows he's not going to get a peace prize. He knows that if war ends in Ukraine tomorrow, the Democrats are still going to call him names. The European leaders are still going to be like, we did this. Trump is not looking for the recognition. Trump is looking for an end to the war. And every Ukrainian soldier that doesn't get killed after that day, and every Russian soldier doesn't get killed that day, they'll know that it was Trump. Right? And that's kind of what's going on. Is Canada can rattle their sabers all they want. They're not. I don't even know where you would buy Canadian syrup. What is it that I buy from Canada? There's nothing I buy from Canada.
All that maple syrup in there came from Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's one of those things that, again, you don't. When we think of Canada.
Yeah,
right?
He said we'll keep our nickel, we'll keep our timber.
When you think of Canada doesn't. There's nothing in the world where people are like the reality is. If you think of hockey, I think of Canada. I'm like, Canadians are really good at hockey. That does nothing for the world. Nothing for the world. The only reason why Canada can ship a fucking log, a goddamn nickel, ship that anywhere in the world is because the United States provides the necessary security for those ships to make it to their destination.
Aren't we cutting a new Panama Canal?
There's talk of it.
Through Mexico or something?
There's
Is
talk
that what
of
I
it.
keep seeing Elon Musk say?
There's talk of it. But, I mean, again.
Every time they do a got you on Elon Musk, they're like, we got you. You think you have $100 million contract for armored Teslas. Joe Biden gave him that contract.
Yeah.
That wasn't fucking Trump. Mm-hmm. Trump's like, no. Electric vehicles on the battlefield are stupid.
And why would you not want the smartest man in the world doing the things that...
Every one of the fucking shit talkers on that Facebook post, when I went and looked at all their shit, they're all fucking hate Trump. Every other post. Who's hiring $20? Fuck Trump. Who's hiring $20? Yeah. Trump's fault. All of them.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy.
It's a fucking... They're...
Unemployable. That's
The whiny... The whininess coming to the top is done. Nobody wants to hear it anymore.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the Democratic Party. They lost because of the rhetoric and the things that they were saying about Donald Trump. They only made him stronger every time they did that thing, did anything against Donald Trump. The reality is, what they need to do is they need to abandon that playbook. They need to throw it in the fire. They need to get rid of every single fucking Democrat that still has their head up their ass. And they need to start coming up with common sense solutions for problems that we already have. Like, again, we're heading to this fucking precipice of not being able to pay the national debt, and the Democrats just want to keep spending money. You either have to do one of two things. You have to either unanimously come out holding hands and be like, you know what? The debt doesn't matter. We're not going to pay any of that money back. We're going on the gold standard.
And we're seizing all Chinese property in the United States.
Or two, you have to fucking cut government spending so you can pay the note that you are telling everybody is guaranteed.
Or we could do both. Because that government spending is only so that the graft can come out. That's just so that it can be
No,
stolen.
It's true. It's true. For every $10 that goes into
What do we care who's
federal
fucking
spending,
circumcised in Nigeria?
well, what you have to what everybody needs to understand is there was no money going for circumcision. That's what they put in the books so that the Nigerian leader that I am peddling influence to, that money goes to you. It does. They're not. None of that. When you hear fucking transgender dance theater in Afghanistan, there's no transgender dance theater in Afghanistan. That's paying off Taliban. Because it's not like they go, here, transgender Bob, here's your fucking $1 million. No, it goes into the Afghanistan budget, and they go, thank you, America. We're going to buy missiles with this. It's just
against you.
It's an accounting thing so Democrats, right? Democrats can go like this. They can go, look, sheeple, in our base, we paid for a transgender dance unit in fucking Nigeria. And the sheeple in the base will go, yay! Even though it bought AK-47s.
What do you think was up with Dan Crenshaw saying he would kill Tucker Carlson?
I mean, the reality is, Tucker Carlson should use the law against Dan Crenshaw. That
sounds like terrorist.
That's a terrorist threat, and Crenshaw should be arrested. I mean, I did not serve with Dan Crenshaw. I have no idea what kind of service Dan Crenshaw had.
There's some dudes that serve with him say he's a turd, but that's always the case.
Yeah, I have not served with. I never served with Dan Crenshaw. He may have been a good Navy SEAL. He is a fucking terrible representative, and he is part of the fucking problem. Yeah. He's a goddamn
Swamp
rhino,
monster.
and he should go.
Yeah.
In Texas, you need to get rid of him.
All right, let's go eat lunch.